All right. Well, what's up, everybody? Having some technical difficulties right now. Even the chat says there's something wrong here. Won't even let me see the chat, which is kind of annoying. I think OBS. I was trying OBS earlier, and it didn't work, which is kind of a bummer. Um, because I was going to kind of share some screens, talk about all the nominees. So this is gonna be a little bit more pared down tonight, which wasn't my plan, but I'm still going to record, still give you guys my thoughts on everything Oscars. So obviously tomorrow night is the Oscars. It's usually a pretty highly anticipated event for myself. I feel like I'm a little bit down this year. I feel like last year was really exciting and I really loved how they kind of went about the Oscars last year. I was a little bit sad this year with everything that was kind of going down. Obviously, there's a lot of different elements happening behind the scenes. I mean, the Oscars is very it's political in nature in the sense of like the Academy members that are going to be voting on all these films. They are being swayed. I mean, there is massive amounts of lobbying that happens in the Oscars, and so with that reality, there's constantly things that are moving and swaying the nominees and who's nominated. And I was definitely a bit frustrated when all the nominees were announced this year. And so I think that it was something that it kind of threw me off a little bit as I was thinking through how I'm going to engage with the content and the show. And um, so yeah, nobody's here yet, so we're gonna take a little bit, wait to see who pops in. I'm just gonna double check really quick, just make sure all of this is actually working, because for some reason before it wasn't working. And so kind of hoping obviously at this point that it is working. So I see somebody in here, but the problem is like I can't even see chat. So it's kind of annoying. So welcome to the one viewer I have joining us right now. Um, I'm kind of hoping to see, is this actually working? I might actually pull it up on my own phone just so I can see the chat alone, to just talk about as we start kind of jumping in and talking about all this stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're here uh, talking about the Oscars. So I'll just give a quick breakdown of this for later. If you're watching and you're jumping in later, you're not watching this live. Um, how I'm gonna do things and how I do things most years. And normally I've done like text stuff, and then I've also um, done write-ups for these type of things. But now with video stuff, how I'm gonna do it this year on videos, how I've always done it. So with the Oscars, I'm gonna go through some of the major categories. I'm not gonna do every single award this year, but what I am gonna do is I'm gonna go through all the major awards, and we're gonna talk about the nominees really quick. I'm gonna list them, and then I'm gonna talk about who should win the award, and then I'll talk about who will win, because there really is a difference. Just because, like I said, with all of the lobbying going on in Hollywood with these award shows, specifically with the Academy Awards, there's sometimes some disconnect, right, between what the audience wants to happen and what the Academy does, and who's been kind of really playing the Oscars game well, because it really is a game. It's this kind of behind the scenes relational connections, moving things around, really lobbying for your project to get votes in the Oscar space. And then Academy members go and they vote. There's even been some controversy this year amongst Academy voters, where it's like people kind of getting outed that they haven't even watched the movies, which is just such a bummer, right? It's like if you're voting on these films, you absolutely should be watching all of them, and that's just not necessarily the case all the time. Case in point with some of Dune. That's what I saw, as I saw some things popping up with Dune. So let's talk about a couple of the big controversies this year with the Oscars. Um, Controversy number one that I just want to kind of get out of the way is, so this whole thing with Amelia Perez is kind of crazy, right? You have this film, this French film that is depicting Latino culture, and it's a musical, and it's really weird, and it's getting all of this buzz. And um and then you have kind of like the main actress is sounding off and causing issues, and so you have all of this stuff mixed up in a major push for this film to get recognized during award season, and then everything really kind of fell apart with it. I will say, I did watch Amelia Perez. I've watched all the Best Pictures save for 2, which normally I've watched all of them. It's a bummer this year I didn't get to watch 2 of them. The 2 I didn't see were the Nickel Boys, which I've heard incredible things about, and I'm Still Here. They just didn't come to theaters that were near me, and I just didn't find an easy way of seeing those films. But in the case of Amelia Perez, obviously it came on streaming, and so I jumped on and I was watching Amelia Perez. And I mean, the movie itself is, like, not, like, inherently all bad. There's elements of the movie that are like, "Wow, okay," like, talented artists made this film, but there was just it was so majorly jumbled and flawed. I mean, it doesn't deserve to be in the conversation for Best Picture, from my perspective, and so I'm not gonna talk a lot of it about it tonight just because it's just I think it didn't really live up to, like, what I think they were hoping it would be, and so I'm just not gonna be talking about a lot about tonight. The other thing, obviously, is all of the AI talk and, like, different things with some of the films of how AI was used for translation and different other things, and so, I mean, that is going to be an ongoing conflict for the Oscars. I mean, as they move forward, they're gonna have to decide where they stand on AI involvement because AI involvement is going to happen a lot in films simply for like translation and audio fixing and like cleaning up audio. I mean ADR stuff like when you go in and you kind of fix dialogue in the editing and post process, that is going to change significantly, and that's partially what happened with The Brutalist is you had this movie who was looking for help in some of the audio language space. And they used AI to do some stuff on that film. And so, and it came to light, and obviously it's getting a little bit of a bad rap for that. Now, I kind of understand from a performance side where we'll get to it, but I mean, the AI inherently in terms of audio and like really cleaning up audio and making audio really crisp and clear, I don't know where I stand on that. I mean, I think I it just depends on what you're using the technology for. Um, Using AI to inherently create and then winning awards for that seems dicey for sure. But in terms of using it as a technical tool, I don't know. It's a possibility that I mean, it's going to be incorporated into filmmaking in a lot of ways. I mean, AI is here to stay in a lot of ways, and we don't know how that is going to affect the industry in the long run. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I don't know if it necessarily belongs in the award season, and there's a lot of voters that believe that as well, apparently. Um, so, I don't know if we need to wait too much longer to really just jump in and start chatting. It's only one of you guys here. Thanks for hanging out with me so far. But for those of you that are tuning in, we're just going to jump in. I'm really going to use the Academy's website. I was initially going to stream it in here, but like I said, with OBS, I was having issues and wasn't able to do it. Um, so I'm going to use the Academy's website. We're just going to go down some of these major categories. I mean, like I said, I'm going to talk about who I think should win and why, and then I'm going to tell you who I think will win the award. So let's jump in right away into the first category, actor in a supporting role. So the nominees for actor in a supporting role are Yuri Borisov in Anora, Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. So I saw all of these films in theaters. They were all enjoyable in their own way. Um, I think Yura's performance in Anora was very interesting. He played an interesting role in the overall narrative of the film, where he kind of was a bit of an antagonist, but overall, um, he was an antagonist, but it didn't fully play out in the way that you would think it would. Um, and so, yeah. Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain. A Real Pain was so interesting. Obviously, he's getting a lot of buzz. He's had several wins um, already for this role. Uh, I didn't love the movie. I mean, it's kind of a hard movie to watch for a lot of different reasons. But Kieran's performance is very good. I really like to complete unknown. Edward Norton, always great. I think he gave an interesting performance in this movie. His screen time wasn't a lot in this film. It's really interesting for actor in supporting role of, like, how much time do they have to be on screen to be nominated, because it is an actual amount, and so, obviously, he was in it enough, but I think he could have been in the movie more and made it stronger. Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, just very captivating performance, and then Jeremy Strong is, played Roy Cohn in this movie about Donald Trump. And so, from a prediction standpoint, so I'm going to talk about who should win first, and it might surprise some people. And the reality is that of these performances, Jeremy Strong, I mean, fairly handily was the best performance in this group, in my opinion. I think that he really gave just an enigmatic performance. He totally captured every ounce of my attention in The Apprentice, and his character arc and what he took you through as a character in portraying Roy Cohn was extremely fascinating. And just, I mean, he brought a really physical nature to this part that just, it was unique. It was very unique, very intense, and I think he gave the best performance. Now, he's who I think should win. Who's going to win? And that is, maybe all of you already know, but that is going to be Kieran Culkin. Kieran Culkin's going to win this award. He's kind of like a little bit of the Hollywood darling in this group. This year, he's won several other awards for the role, and I think he's going to clean sweep it in terms of like the Globes and the SAGs and now the Oscar. So Kieran Culkin's going to win this role. So let's move on to actress in a leading role. So the nominees for actress in a receive in the, the nominees for actress in a leading role are Cynthia Erivo for Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez, Mikey Madison for Honora, Demi Moore for The Substance, and Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here. Like I said, I didn't get to see I'm Still Here. Unfortunately, I will absolutely see it of when I eventually, but I haven't, so I can't speak to Fernanda's performance, but I will speak to the others. I mean, The Substance is getting a ton of buzz, and that movie was absolutely insane. I think it's getting a lot of buzz for being a genre pick that got into the Best Picture category, and it's getting a lot of notice. A lot of people are really excited about this. Demi Moore's performance in this really was incredible. I mean, she just, it's very unsettling, and it's a grotesque role as well that she just owned. I mean, that she owned so much of this role. And then, I mean, the rest down the line, these all just were really, they all really were good performances. Uh, Carla Sofia Gascon aside, because I didn't think that her performance was that great. Um, so it really comes down to 2 though, I think, and so who I think should win this role, honestly, if you look at the body of work, I really think Cynthia Erivo deserves the win on this. I think she should win. I mean, the fact of that they sang live in all of this stuff, and just she brought so much to Elphaba, and she overcame a lot of preconceived notions of Elphaba, and so I just think that she should win the award. I mean, just the scope of the role and all that she did in that role, I think she should win it. Now, I don't think she will win it. So the person who I think will win actress in a leading role is going to be Mikey Madison for Honora. And I think she has all the buzz. She has all the momentum behind her. Now, I think she gave a good performance. Do I think it's worthy? I don't know. The film, I'm a little bit more down on Honora than a lot of people are. It's not a bad movie. It was good. It just wasn't as special as everyone I thought was making it out to be. But Mikey Madison was absolutely the highlight of that film, and she was the best performer in that set, and, like, I think that, you know, you can't take away a lot from her. She laid it all out there. She gave a great performance, and I think it's going to pay off for her. I think she's going to win the award. So let's move on to actress in a supporting role. So the nominees for actress in a supporting role are Monica Barbero for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Isabella Rossellini for Conclave, and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. Now, again, just an incredible set of all of these were really amazing performances. And I will say about Amelia Perez, I mean, Zoe Saldana was the highlight of that movie. I think she brought something really great and professional and really interesting to that movie. I mean, she was the most interesting person in the film. Now, was it an Oscar worthy performance? I don't think so because I didn't think that the dialogue and the songs and the story was Oscar worthy, and so I think it fell short in a lot of places. But so who should win this, right? I think very easily though in this thing, Ariana Grande should also win this. I was super down on Ariana Grande when I heard that she was playing the role of Glinda, and I thought, man, they really messed up with that casting. I could not have been more wrong. I think she probably surpassed Cynthia in terms of performance in the film. I think she was the most surprising, enigmatic, and best performer in that film, and she blew me away. I mean, just her little tiny little things of how she moved and how she did voice inflection and just how she delivered the lines and her character were perfect. It was a perfect performance in my opinion. I'm a bit of a musical aficionado and I really love musicals and I just was so incredibly blown away and surprised by her performance. And so she should win the award. Now, who will win the award. And I think, like I said, with the momentum and with her being the highlight, and honestly, with this kind of maybe making up for some old performances that she's given, I think that Zoe Saldana is going to win the award for this film for Amelia Perez. I just think that the lobbyists and the people have pulled the strings that they need to pull for her to take this home, and so that would be my pick for actress in a supporting role of who will win it is Zoe Saldana. All right, let's move on to animated feature film. This is maybe the toughest category for me to pick. I mean, I was well, this past year I've been was working on an animated feature film. I love animation and I've seen all of these and they all truly are incredible. So the nominees for animated feature film are Flow by Glintz Zabalodis, very small team. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, which was very weird, but also very awesome and eclectic. Wallace and Gromit, which was a great nostalgia piece for me, and The Wild Robot, which was just mind blowingly beautiful. That film is incredible if you haven't seen it. So, who should win this award? This is a really, really, really difficult one because I honestly am a little bit split on what I think the Academy is going to do. Um, at the end of the day, The Wild Robot should win this award. It was the best animated movie of this year. It is incredible. It's incredibly written and just an absolutely beautiful film, and it's quite the achievement in animation. Now, with that said, who will win it? I think I think that Flow may win this award. I think it might get it. Now, and it is very deserving of the award. Do I think it's the best animated feature of the year? No, but it was a small team that made an incredibly beautiful film and just a really deep intellectual film as well. I mean, this movie really challenges you emotionally. If you haven't seen Flow, it's streaming right now. I would go check it out. It really is an incredible film. It was my second favorite animated film of the year, very close second to The Wild Robot. And I just think it's kind of like a Cinderella story. And I think that the Academy might lean into that. And so I'm going to have Flow being the one that will win this award, but it is close. I definitely could be wrong on this. I think that the Wild Robot should take it, but I think Flow might have kind of snuck in there with a Cinderella story and cause voters to go with Flow. So, all right, let's talk about cinematography. Man, I love this award. All of the nominees for this are just huge, huge achievements in filmmaking. And so the nominees for cinematography are The Brutalist, Lowell Crowley, Dune Part 2, Greg Fraser, Amelia Perez, Paul Gilham, Maria by Ed Lachman, and Nosferatu by Jaron Blaschke. I mean, the first one that I'm like, I lean into is Nosferatu. I mean, that film, I think it got pretty hardcore, like, pushed out of the Oscars quite a bit, and it really was an insane film. I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, just incredible filmmaking. I think Eggers is, like, just one of the guys right now that just everything he touches is just absolute cinema gold, and so I think that it was something really special. I was blown away by the inventiveness of The Brutalist. I just think they took a lot of risks in that film, from a cinematography standpoint. A lot of really sprawling, huge shots, a lot of interesting roaming shots. Like they just did a lot of really interesting stuff that I appreciated and that really settle in your soul and really made you feel the narrative. The cinematography really strengthened the narrative of The Brutalist. Um, and then Doom Part 2, I mean, just speaks for itself. I mean, the first sequence with those guys kind of floating up to the rock and just that whole bit, you just knew you were in for an absolute treat. And then the planet with the black sun, like just so many great creative choices and just really, really great cinematography. So, who should win this award? I think at the end of the day, Jaron Blaschke should win for Nosferatu, though. I think it is the best and most artful cinematography in the bunch, and I think that it just there's something so classic about it, but also innovative, and so it deserves to win the cinematography award. It kinda squeaks out above some of the others, though, but who will win this award, you know? And I actually think that Lowell Crowley for The Brutalist is going to win. I think that he just did just enough to really catch voters' eyes that it feels a little bit more like it's just a little bit more sexy cinematography, if I can say that. It's like it's interesting, and so it's a bit more interesting and catches your eye a little bit more than maybe Nosferatu does. And Nosferatu again is just such a high genre flick, and those just don't get a lot of attention at these award shows. That's just the reality. And so I think The Brutalist is going to take this one for cinematography. Let's jump over to costume design. This one's fairly easy, I think, but nominees for costume design were A Complete Unknown by Aaron Phillips, Conclave by Lissy Crystal, Gladiator 2 by Jonty Yates and Dave Crossman, Nosferatu by Linda Muir, and Wicked by Paul Tazewell. So, um, who should win this award? Wicked. 100% just the world that they built through costumes in this, just all of the Ozians and the Munchkins and just Elphaba and Glinda. Galinda alone, like just all of the nuance and the attention to detail in the costuming of that character just were incredible. I mean, it blew me away how beautiful and just really it's just the film was so incredible, and every element of that film added to its narrative and the world building, and the costume design was just as much a part of that for Wicked, and so I don't have to talk about any of the other ones because I think that Wicked will win this award. I think it's gonna beat out the rest fairly handily. Oh, man, okay, directing. This one I have an axe to grind, and it really frustrates me. But we're gonna jump in. So let's talk about the nominees really quick. And you've probably seen it everywhere. This is the first time ever that all of the directors are first time directors, like for their movies. Like these are their first big features, apparently. This is what I read. So it's like very unique situation. And I mean, a highlight a bit for the film industry, right? You got a lot of fresh talent here, but we'll get into why I'm upset about it. The nominees are Sean Baker for Honora, Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, James Mangold for Incomplete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez, and Corley Farragut for The Substance. Now, I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from anybody in these awards. Directing a movie is insanely difficult. I mean, I've directed dozens of short films over the course of my career and several animated pieces, and the level of time and craft and blood, sweat, and tears that goes into directing even a short film, let alone a feature, is insane. I mean, you have to throw yourself fully into these projects and they become your life to a certain degree. And so I can't take away that from anybody. But the reality is this award alone of directing really made me upset at the Oscars because Denis Villeneuve absolutely deserved to be in this space, and I also think that maybe even John Cho for Wicked deserved to be in this space as well. I think both of them were very deserving to be here, and I think that they were deserving to be here above others, definitely above for Amelia Perez. I just like I said, we've talked about that, and I also think that, like, A Complete Unknown was like I liked A Complete Unknown a lot, but it was kind of like a run of the mill drama. Like, it was just a good drama. There wasn't anything that really blew me away from a directing standpoint about A Complete Unknown. And so I can see why they did Nora and The Brutalist and Substance. I mean, the directing in that is very evident. You feel it. And that's my argument for Denis Villeneuve and John Cho as well. It's like you feel the directing in Dune Part 2 and Wicked. I just think that those two films, the fact that these guys did not get nominated were major snubs, and it really turned me off to this award. But let's talk about who should and who will win these awards. So, who should win this award from this group? Looking at this group, I actually think that Brady Corbett should win out of this group. That would be my opinion. I think that he did so much with that film that was so unique. He made a lot of unique choices, and his hand is very evident. And that's a good directing measurement, right? Is can you sense the voice of the director in the film? And you absolutely do in The Brutalist. And so that's who I would say should win. Will he win? No, he will not. I think who will win this award is Sean Baker for Honora. And I just think that it's simply because that seems to be where the tide is going in terms of like lobbying the project. I mean, we've seen Honora pick up a lot of awards here towards the end as Amelia Perez has fell off just in the world of like the Golden Globes and then the SAGs and just all these kind of smaller awards leading up to the Oscars. And so I think Sean Baker is going to win this for Honora. And I'm not saying he's undeserving. I just think that the best directing that happened this year was Denis, and he's not even on this list. And so it's kind of crazy. But I think Sean Baker's going to take it home, which is crazy to take home a Best Directing Oscar for your first feature film. Quite an achievement. All right, let's jump into film editing. The nominees for film editing are Honora, Sean Baker, The Brutalist, David Jansko, Conclave, Nick Emerson, Amelia Perez, Julian Welfling, and Wicked, Myron Kernstein. Now, the editing is such a unique thing. They say a lot of the time a film is written 3 times. A film is written when the screenplay is written. A film is written when it's directed on set by the director. And then I say that the film is written again in the editing room by the editor and the director. And I really hold by that is a very true statement. So an editor brings so much to the table in terms of how a movie ends up and the narrative that we experience. And so when I look at these films, I've seen all of these and I think about the rhythm and the flow. That's what you think about a lot with editing. Like, how well does the film move? Like, how motivated is it? And when you go from cut to cut, and all of those elements as they're moving together, there really is a dance involved. And so when I think about who should win this award, the best edited film I think on this list is Conclave. That film is incredible. It really blew me away. I mean, 10 years ago, Conclave would have won everything. It's that type of movie, but nowadays, probably not. But there was so much rhythm in that movie, in the cuts, and there was so much intentionality. It was a slow burn drama, but the cuts really made it absolutely just like you were just totally drawn into this story of wanting to know what was going to happen, and it was because of sound and then obviously film editing just really leveraged really well. Um, so I think Conclave should win. Will it win though? I don't think it will. I think who will win is going to be Sean Baker for Honora. I think we're going to see Sean Baker take home a directing and an editing Oscar, which I don't think has been done before, and I think it's gonna happen. I think that, this idea that this guy directed the film and then he cut it together shows a lot of passion. I think Academy voters are gonna like that. I think they're gonna want, to award him for really putting himself so fully into this film, and, I think that's just the way that's gonna go. So, I think we're coming up to maybe just a couple more we're gonna cover, and then obviously getting to the big one, best film, and we'll talk through it. Um, but I'll talk about music because 'cause I'm a huge music guy. I love music and film. I just think it brings such a unique element to emotion and how we connect with film. Um, so nominees for music original score: Daniel Blumberg for The Brutalist, Vocal Bertelmann for Conclave, Claremont Ducal and Camille for Amelia Perez, John Powell and Stephen Schwartz for Wicked, and Chris Bowers for The Wild Robot. Each one of these films scores were truly really, really beautiful. And I will say even Amelia Perez. I mean, the score was probably one of the highlights of the film in terms of the music. I'm not talking about the actual musical numbers. I'm talking about the score itself. And obviously, Stephen Schwartz is a legend, right? For Wicked. I mean, he's done so many stage shows, but I don't know if either of those are in it, right? So, who should win this award? Who should win for music? And I'm going to follow up my film editing nod with this one is that out of these scores, original scores, Conclave should absolutely win for this. This it was the best score of the year. I think it was better than I mean, everything else on this list, it's the one score that stuck with me for months after I watched it and I listened to it over and over and over again. The strikingness of this thing, the intensity of it, the score was so beautiful and so deserving of an Oscar win. Do I think it's going to win though? I don't think it's going to. I think that Wicked is gonna take this home. I think the power of Steven Schwartz and his kind of just his reputation in Broadway and just all that he's done there, I think it's gonna take it home for him in the music space, and so that's would be my vote for who will win, the music original score. And that brings us to um, let's see here. Let's talk about production design. Um, I think from a production design standpoint, all of these are really incredible. Nominees were The Brutalist, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, and Wicked. I think for who should win this is Wicked. I just think the set and the costumes and just all the elements that went into world building that world were truly incredible. I think a close right there is Doom Part 2 is right there with it. I mean, I think Doom Part 2 is deserving. I just think um the level of detail on Wicked was a little bit more than Dune Part 2. I think Dune Part 2 did a lot in visual effects as well, a lot more. Even though I know Villeneuve uses a lot of practical stuff, I mean, a lot of Wicked was built and designed, and it just was incredible. And so, yeah, I think Wicked is who should win it. and I think it's who will win it. So I think we're going to see Nathan Crowley and Lee Sandalis take that home. Um, from we'll jump it right into visual effects since I mentioned it, but it's like I think the nominees for visual effects are Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked. Um, so who should win this? Dune Part 2. I think that it was almost like a Jurassic Park level mix of VFX and practical, and when VFX is that good where you literally just can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not, I just think that that is truly the magic of the movies, and I think Dune Part 2 should win this award, and I think it will win it. I think Dune Part 2 is gonna take home visual effects fairly handily. I don't see any of the other nominees beating out, Dune Part 2 for visual effects amongst the voters. I think that it has that locked in. All right, writing. Um, so writing has 2 different categories. We have adapted screenplay and then original screenplay. I don't know if I wanna go through I'll go through both of them. We'll talk about it. So, adapted screenplay, for those of you that may not know, is just so existing material. There's material that has existed that is about the narrative, the narrative of the movie. And they take that existing material and they write a screenplay about that material. And so it's not original and make it up on the spot. They're using source material for it. So, the nominees for writing adapted screenplay are A Complete Unknown by James Mangold and Jay Cox, Conclave by Peter Strawn, Amelia Perez by Jacques Audiard, Nickel Boys by Ramel Ross and Jocelyn Barnes, and Sing Sing by Clint Bentley. Our first time hearing Sing Sing. Sing Sing, I think, was massively underrated this year. It's an incredible film if you haven't seen it. And I mean, I can't talk enough about how amazing Sing Sing was. And our first thing with Nickel Boys popping up here too. And sadly, I haven't seen Nickel Boys. Like I said, it's the one that didn't come to my area. Very, very disappointed about that. So, who do I think should win this? It's hard to judge because I haven't seen Nickel Boys and I've heard incredible things about it. But if I were to go from the ones that have seen, which is everything else, I would go with Conclave. I think Conclave was brilliant. I think that the dialogue was just absolutely, yeah, it was enrapturing. I mean, I loved every moment of Conclave. I think it was one of my favorite movies of the year. Um, and they had me on the edge of my seat, and it just was a well done screenplay with good dialogue and good pace. And so I think it should win. Will it win? I don't know. I don't think it's gonna win. I don't think Conclave is gonna win much on awards night, as much as I think it's deserving of it. And from all of the buzz that I've heard, so this is definitely taking a risk, but I think from all the buzz I've heard about writing and the Nickel Boys, I think Nickel Boys is going to win adapted screenplay. I think everything I've heard about how good it is, how amazing the story is, how amazing the performances were, and performance is very much influenced by writing, obviously. I mean, the dialogue sets the foundation for these actors and actresses to give really incredible performances. So I think Nickel Boys is going to take home the award for adapted screenplay. So let's talk about original screenplay. So the nominees for original screenplay are Sean Baker for Honora, Brady Corbett and Mona Fastfold for The Brutalist, Jesse Eisenberg for A Real Pain, September 5th, written by Moritz Binder, Tim Fellbaum, and co-written by Alex David, and The Substance by Corley Farragut. Really cool thing about original screenplay this year is that so many of the nominees are up for directing as well. And so it's fun for me being a writer director, seeing a lot of writer directors represented in this list. I think that it's a unique skill set that we're probably going to start seeing a lot more in the industry going forward. And so it's kind of interesting and fun seeing so many of them pop up here. So now, who should win for original screenplay? So from this list, I think the best written original script here, I think for me was The Brutalist. I think that Brady Corbett gave something really unique. I think that the immigrant story that was told in The Brutalist and just all of the relational elements were just so fascinating. And in this sprawling epic that's kind of a callback to old cinema, there's just something really special about it that I enjoyed very much. And so that's strong writing. When you have a narrative that really takes you on a journey, that's strong writing. And so I think that Brady Corbett deserves it, but I don't think he's going to win. So who will win? I think that we are going to see the emergent of the Sean Baker effect here at this year's Oscars, and I think Sean Baker is going to take home original screenplay for Honora. I think that they've lobbied themselves really well to the Academy voters. I think they're going to want to see this kid do something special. And he's going to. I think he's going to take home. I think he's going to take home multiple awards tomorrow night. And it's going to be a big surprise to a lot of people. But I think it's going to set him on a big career trajectory. And we're going to see some really fun stuff, I think, from Sean Baker. So I think he's going to take home original screenplay. So on to my final prediction of the night and the biggest one of all, and that is Best Picture. Best Picture obviously has changed over the years since they've brought in 10 nominees. I know a lot of people don't like it. I kind of like it only because it does kind of make things a little bit more interesting for mass audiences. I think that several years ago, when it used to just be 5 nominees, a lot of them were like movies that general audiences hadn't seen, and there just wasn't a lot of intrigue around the awards. And so I think that they've brought in a lot more intrigue here, and I think that that's really, really good with more of these nominees. So let's go through them really quick. Um, Nominees for Best Picture are Honora, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune Part 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Really, really interesting. Like we said at the beginning, some controversy here, as always, with Amelia Perez. Also, some controversy, I think, just in terms of the substance. You don't see a lot of genre picks getting put in the space of Best Picture, so it's kind of fun seeing it there. Even though I don't think it's going to win, it was a great, it really was a well-made film. But it's kind of fun seeing it getting included here. So I think my top films of the year on this list that I enjoyed the most were Doom Part 2, Conclave, and Wicked. Those are really my top 3 enjoyment films of the year, but that doesn't always translate over into Best Picture. So, amongst this list, who do I think should win and who do I think will win? I think the should win, when I really look at this list, like who should win this film, I really think Dune Part 2 should win. I think when you look at it from the scale of filmmaking, like just everything that Denis Villeneuve did with that movie across the board, every single element of that movie is amazing. I mean, it improved upon Dune Part 1. I think Dune Part 1 had some flaws, and Dune Part 2 really came in and I think it was way better than Dune Part 1, which is very unique for a sequel to be so much better than the original film. And I just think it's just something special that I really enjoyed, and I do think Denis Villeneuve brought something really unique to the film or to the screen that deserves that award. Do I think it will win? Absolutely not. It's not going to win. So when I look at the makeup of all of these films, I could see a Nickel Boys coming in dark horse and kind of stealing the big award. That's a little bit of what I have was kind of initially leaning towards just because of a lot of the narrative surrounding the film. I could see it coming in and stealing it. I mean, Amelia Perez was definitely up there for a while, and then all that controversy happened, and I think that that soured a lot of voters on it, and they are not going to go for it because, like we said, the Academy Awards is just as much a political game as politics itself. I mean, there is so much going on in that space of voting, more than just what is put on the screen. And so I think Amelia Perez fell way down now in that space. Um, and so I think you could make a case for Honora, but I don't think it will actually take it above. I think that there's something unique about an immigrant story. And so I think who will win Best Picture this year is gonna be The Brutalist. I think it's gonna surprise a lot of people, but I think it's just one of those films that has a bit of a nostalgia, unique, epic cinema quality to it, with a lot of elements of innovation and freshness and something new, just with a new young director. Um, and so I just think, with Brady Corbett of what he did with that film, I see the Academy leaning in. I see Academy voters picking that as a safe bet. Now, I could be wrong because of the whole AI controversy with it, but I mean, that's what I'm thinking will win it at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that that is my take for all of my predictions for the Oscars. I'm pretty excited to go and hang out at a buddy's house and watch them tomorrow night. I'm sure there will be some surprises, but drop down in the comments and let me know what are your hot takes on any of these and what you think about my should wins and will wins? And yeah, I mean, I think that that is what I've got for you guys tonight. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here tonight for my predictions. But I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and prep for the Oscar party tomorrow. So until next, everybody, I'm Michael Allen, and this is the Movie Minute, and I'm signing off. Peace out.